Listen to me. Life is going to hit you with challenges you never asked for. Problems will show up uninvited. That's guaranteed. But what separates average people from champions is this. Champions don't obsess over the problem. They lock in on the solution. You get stuck because you waste energy repeating what's wrong instead of designing what's next. Problems are loud, but your purpose must be louder. Every problem is just a puzzle, and puzzles are meant to be solved. Your job is not to panic. Your job is to pivot. Your job is not to complain. Your job is to create a way out. Hear me clearly. Your breakthrough starts the moment you stop asking a why me and start asking a what now? Because the more you stare at the problem, the bigger it looks. The more you chase the solution, the closer you get to victory. Stop crying, stop stressing, stop repeating the same story to everybody around you. That story won't fix anything. Action will. Effort will. A solution-focused mindset will. Winners don't need everything to be perfect. They need one reason to keep going. Losers only need one problem to stop. So from today, when life throws you obstacles, don't freeze. Focus forward. Don't complain. Create. Don't run. Respond with strategy. Because the moment you train your mind to focus on solutions, you start attracting opportunities, ideas, breakthroughs, and growth. Your life changes when your mindset changes. Your results change when your focus changes. So decide right now, I'm not problem-driven. I'm solution-driven. I'm focused. I'm disciplined. I'm unstoppable. When you shift your mindset from a why me to what's the next step, everything about your life begins to change. Most people stay stuck because they keep replaying the same question in their mind. Why is this happening to me? Why am I struggling? Why am I facing this problem? But that question never moves you forward. It keeps you locked inside the pain. It keeps you anchored in the same loop, going nowhere, repeating the same stress, the same frustration, the same fear. When you focus on the problem grows. But the moment you redirect your mind toward the next step, your energy changes, your attitude shifts, and solutions start to reveal themselves. Life isn't unfair because it gives you problems. Life becomes unfair only when you refuse to take control of your response. Everybody you look up to, every successful person, every leader, every high achiever has gone through situations where they could have easily said, well, why me? But instead, they ask the one question that creates momentum. What's the next step? That one shift transforms victims into victors, warriors into warriors, and dreamers into doers. Why me keeps you dwelling on the past, but what's the next step pulls you into action, into motion, into progress. When you ask what's the next step, you take your power back. You're telling your mind to stop searching for blame and start searching for direction. You're no longer stuck in the story of the pain. You're building the path out of it. Problems don't disappear when you complain about them. They shrink when you start breaking them down, piece by piece, step by step. Every solution begins with a single action, even if the action is small, even if the action feels insignificant. Momentum comes from movement, and movement comes from choosing the next step instead of dwelling on the problem. When you choose to focus on the next step, you stop wasting energy on things you cannot control. You stop feeding your fears and you start feeding your fight. You begin to realize that life isn't about having the perfect plan. It's about having the courage to take the first step and then the next. The road becomes clear as you walk on it. Clarity doesn't come from sitting still. Clarity comes from movement, trial, error, adjustment, and persistence. Every time you ask her what's the next step, you open the door to clarity. Most people never move forward because they want the entire path to be visible. They want all the answers before they take the first step. But life doesn't work like that. You get the answers as you move. You get direction as you grow. When you replace a why me with a what's next, you choose progress over pity. You choose discipline over doubt. You choose solutions over suffering. And that shift is powerful because the mind can only focus on one direction at a time. If you're facing backward, you can't move forward. If you're repeating the problem, you're not creating the solution. Asking what's the next step doesn't mean the problem is easy. It doesn't mean the situation is fair. It doesn't mean you don't feel pain, frustration, or confusion. It means you refuse to let those emotions control your life. It means you're willing to push forward even when you don't have all the answers. It means you believe in your ability to figure it out one step at a time. That belief is what separates success from stagnation. Every champion you admire has had a moment where they felt overwhelmed, lost, or broken. They could have said, oh, why did this happen? Why do I have to struggle? Why can't life be easier? But they didn't stay there. They didn't let that mindset take root. They redirected their focus toward the next step, even if the next step was small, uncomfortable, or uncertain. That's how you build resilience. That's how you build strength. That's how you build a future you can be proud of. The next step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be forward. Maybe your next step is learning something new. Maybe it's asking for help. Maybe it's creating a plan. Maybe it's creating a plan. Maybe it's removing someone toxic from your life. Maybe it's taking responsibility for something you've been avoiding. Maybe it's simply deciding that the problem will not define you. The step itself matters less than the decision to take it. You become unstoppable when you train your mind to immediately shift from reaction to action, from panic to purpose, from fear to focus. Problems are a part of life, but problems are not the end of your story. They are simply opportunities to show what you're made of. Life will test you, but life will also reward those who refuse to quit. Every time you choose action over excuses, you grow. Every time you choose direction over doubt, you grow. Every time you choose the next step, you grow. And growth is the real victory. Giving less energy to the problem and more energy to the plan is one of the most powerful mental shifts you can make in your life. Most people don't even realize how much of their strength, creativity, and emotional energy they waste feeding the problem. They talk about it all day. They think about it before they sleep. They replay it in their mind like a movie on repeat. Every time they do that, the problem becomes heavier, louder, and more intimidating. The truth is, the more energy you give something, the more power it gains over you. When you constantly fuel the problem, you are unknowingly allowing it to control your thoughts, your time, and your future. The moment you decide to redirect that energy toward the plan, everything begins to shift. Your mind starts working differently. Your emotions settle. Your focus sharpens. You stop seeing the problem as a wall and start seeing it as a challenge you can climb. The human brain is incredibly powerful, but it works based on direction. If you point it toward fear, you get more fear. If you point it toward solutions, ideas begin to show up. You start noticing options you couldn't see before, simply because you stopped feeding the panic and started feeding the plan. People underestimate how much control they actually have. You can't always control the situation, but you can control where your energy goes. And that decision determines everything that happens next. Imagine two people facing the same obstacle. One spends all day complaining about how hard it is, how unfair it is, how impossible it feels. The other person feels the difficulty too, but instead of letting the problem drain them, they sit down and start planning. They ask themselves what resources they have, what options exist, what steps they can take. They may not have all the answers, but they're using their energy wisely. One person gets stuck, the other person gets stronger. It's not about luck, it's about focus. Giving less energy to the problem doesn't mean pretending the problem doesn't exist. It means you acknowledge it, but you refuse to drown in it. You refuse to keep feeding it with emotional energy that leads nowhere. You refuse to talk about it endlessly without making progress. It means you're choosing to use your strength not to replay the pain, but to build the path forward. When you shift your attention to plan, you're building momentum, slowly at first, but consistently. And momentum is powerful because once it starts, it becomes difficult to stop. Plans bring structure. They bring clarity, they bring purpose. When you have a plan, even a simple one, your mind feels less overwhelmed because now there is direction. Problems make you feel stuck, but plans remind you that movement is possible. When you put energy into the plan, you are telling yourself that progress matters more than frustration. You are giving yourself permission to move forward instead of remaining trapped in emotional chaos. Most of the stress people feel comes not from the problem itself, but from the lack of a plan. When you don't know what to do next, everything feels heavy. The mind hates uncertainty, so it fills the space with fear, doubt, and worst-case scenarios. But the moment you create a plan, your mind shifts from panic to purpose. The fear begins to shrink because now your brain has something to work with. Even if the plan changes later, the act of planning creates direction, and direction creates strength. When you give energy to the plan, you start thinking strategically instead of emotionally. You begin analyzing instead of complaining. You begin creating instead of fearing. You begin executing instead of waiting. And in that process, you discover that the solution was never as far away as it felt. It was always within reach. You just needed to shift your focus. Energy is a limited resource. You only get so much each day. You can spend it talking about the problem. You can invest it in building the solution. You can pour it into worry. You can pour it into work. You can waste it repeating what went wrong, or you can use it to create what comes next. Every minute you spend stressing about the problem is a minute stolen from your progress. The most successful people aren't the ones with the easiest lives. They're the ones who discipline their energy. They choose to invest it into actions that move them forward, not into emotions that hold them back. Even when the problem is painful, the plan is what gives you power. The plan reminds you that you still have choices, reminds you that you still have influence over your life. It reminds you that you're not helpless, even if you feel overwhelmed. And that reminder alone can change your entire mental state. When you invest energy in planning, you're building confidence. You're strengthening your belief in your ability to find a way forward. You're reaffirming that solutions exist, even if you haven't seen them yet. Every problem has a solution. Your job is to find it, not fear it. Most people get stuck not because the problems are impossible, but because fear freezes them before they even try. The moment a challenge appears, their mind jumps straight to worst-case scenario. They assume the situation is too big, too complicated, too unfair. They convince themselves that there's no way out. But the truth is, problems only look impossible when you're staring at them through the lens of fear. When you shift that lens to determination, new paths start to reveal themselves. The solution may not be obvious at first, but it exists. It's waiting for you to look for it instead of running from it. Fear magnifies the problem. It makes the mountain look higher, the road look longer, and the obstacle look stronger. It steals your clarity. It steals your courage. It steals your courage. It steals your creativity. The solutions require clarity, courage, and creativity. The exact things that fear shuts down. That's why the moment you decide to stop fearing the problem and start searching for the solution, your mind begins to work the way it was meant to. The human brain is designed to adapt, analyze, and solve. But it can't do any of those things when fear is in control. You're not supposed to crumble under pressure. You're supposed to rise because of it. Pressure strengthens you, challenges shape you. Problems train your mind to think deeper, sharper, and smarter. Every time you solve something you once thought was too difficult, your confidence grows. You become stronger. Not because life got easier, but because you got better at facing it. Problems are not barriers. They're invitations to rise to a higher level of thinking. When you approach a problem with the mindset that a solution exists, your entire approach changes. You stop asking, can this be fixed? And you start asking, how can I fix it? Changes everything, just everything. One question shuts down your mind, the other activates it. One creates fear, the other creates possibility. The moment you decide that a solution must exist, your brain begins searching for it like a detective looking for clues. Even if the first idea doesn't work or the second one fails, the process of searching keeps you moving. And movement is where answers begin to appear. Think about how many problems in life feel overwhelming until you break them down. Something that looks impossible becomes manageable when divided into smaller steps. Often the solution isn't one big action. It's a series of small actions that eventually lead to progress. But fear convinces you that if you don't see the full solution immediately, then it doesn't exist at all. That's a lie. Most solutions appear one step at a time. You don't need the entire map to start the journey. You just need the courage to take the first step and trust that the next one will reveal itself. People often forget that solutions don't always look perfect in the beginning. Well, sometimes the first step is messy. Sometimes the first idea fails. But failure isn't the opposite of a solution. It's part of finding the right one. Every failed attempt gives you information. It shows you what doesn't work, which brings you closer to what does. Champions know this. Champions know this. Innovators know this. Problem solvers know this. They don't fear the process because they understand that solutions are built, not magically delivered. Fear holds you captive, but effort sets you free. You can't find a solution if you're hiding from the problem. You can't fix what you refuse to face. The moment you look at the problem directly and say, I will figure this out, you regain your power. Solutions come to people who are willing to try, willing to learn, willing to think differently, willing to stay calm under pressure, willing to believe that no matter how complicated the situation looks, there has to be a way forward. Life rewards those who search for answers, not those who surrender to fear. Every skill you have today came from solving a problem you once didn't know how to handle. Every strength you have today was built through pressure. Every breakthrough you've had started with a challenge. This is proof that you've already solved more problems than you give yourself credit for. So why fear the next one? When you believe that every problem has a solution, you become unstoppable. You no longer freeze when challenges appear. You analyze them, you break them down, you experiment, you adjust, you stay persistent, you stay calm, you stay strategic, and eventually, the solution presents itself. Not because it magically appeared, but because you stay committed to finding it. Solutions come through action, not overthinking. This is where most people get stuck. They sit with the problem, replaying it in their mind over and over until it grows into something far bigger than it actually is. They analyze every angle, predict every possible outcome, and imagine every worst-case scenario. But the problem with overthinking is that it gives you the illusion of progress while keeping you frozen in place. Your mind keeps spinning, but your life doesn't move. Overthinking drains your energy, clouds your judgment, and prevents you from taking the very steps that will lead you to the solution. Action, on the other hand, brings clarity. The moment you start doing something or anything, the fog begins to lift. You begin to see what's possible, what's not, what needs to change, and what needs to be done next. Action turns fear into focus. It turns stress into strategy. It turns confusion into direction. You can think all day about how to fix a problem, but nothing will change until you take a step forward. Even a small step begins to shift your perspective because action teaches you what thinking alone can never reveal. Overthinking creates imaginary problems. It makes situations look worse than they are. It convinces you that you're not ready, not skilled enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. It exaggerates obstacles and minimizes your strengths. But the moment you act, those imaginary barriers start to crumble. You begin to realize that many of the challenges you feared were not as difficult as you thought. Action exposes the truth, and the truth is often far less scary than the story your mind created. People tell themselves they're planning, they're preparing, they're thinking things through. But many times, that's just fear wearing a mask. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You don't need the entire plan before you move. You don't need every detail figured out. Waiting for perfect clarity is just another form of hesitation. Solutions rarely appear before you take action. They reveal themselves as you move. The path becomes clearer once you start walking it. Think about how many problems you solved in life, not because you knew exactly what to do, but because you tried something. You experimented, you made mistakes, you fixed your mistakes, you learned, you improved. That is how progress works. Action creates experience, creates understanding, and understanding leads you to the solution. No amount of thinking can replace what action teaches. Action also builds confidence. The moment you take steps towards solving a problem, you start believing in your own ability to figure things out. Confidence doesn't come from certainty. It comes from movement. Every small action is like a vote for your future self, proof that you are capable, determined, and willing to fight for a better outcome. Confidence grows with every attempt, every adjustment, every moment you choose progress over paralysis. Overthinking kills confidence because it magnifies everything that could go wrong. It makes you feel powerless. But action gives you the opposite feeling. It makes you feel capable. Even if you fail, you gain information that helps you move forward. Failure is not a step backward when you learn from it. It is simply a step in the direction of success. One of the biggest reasons people overthink is because they want control. They want to be certain before they act. They want to avoid mistakes, avoid embarrassment, avoid risk. But the truth is, you cannot control everything. You cannot predict every outcome. What you can control is your effort, your decisions, your mindset, and your willingness to act. When you accept that uncertainty is part of life, action becomes easier. You stop waiting for guarantees and start creating opportunities. Another danger of overthinking is that it disconnects you from the present moment. You get lost in the what if, you get trapped in hypotheticals, and you forget that real change happens right here, right now. Action grounds you. It brings you back into the moment. It demands engagement, presence, and focus. When you're doing something, your mind can't wander into fear. You're too busy moving forward. Solutions don't come to those who wait. They come to those who work. You solve problems by trying different strategies, adjusting when necessary, and staying persistent. Consistency matters more than perfection. Progress matters more than flawless playing. Movement matters more than mental calculations. Even if the first step isn't perfect, it creates momentum. And momentum is what leads to breakthroughs. The idea that you need to think your way into the perfect solution is one of the biggest lies that keeps people stuck. You don't think your way into clarity. You act your way into clarity. You act your way into clarity. The solution is not found in your thoughts. It is found in your efforts. Breaking the problem into small, fixable steps is one of the most effective ways to overcome overwhelm and move forward with confidence. The reason so many people feel stuck is because they look at the entire problem all at once. They see the full weight of the challenge, the full distance they have to travel, the full size of what needs to be fixed. When you stare at everything as one giant mountain, it becomes intimidating. It becomes heavy. It becomes something your mind tells you is impossible. But that mountain becomes manageable when you break it into steps, when you divide it into pieces, when you reduce it into smaller tasks you can actually take action on today. The human mind works best when it feels like progress is possible. Big problems create fear because they seem too large to control. But when you break the problem down, you give your mind something it can handle. You turn an overwhelming situation into a series of achievable actions. This shift reduces anxiety and increases motivation. Suddenly, the problem doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like a project. And projects can be completed one step at a time. When you break a problem into steps, you create a road map. Even if the problem is complicated, even if the situation is stressful, even if you don't know the full solution yet, a roadmap gives you direction. You don't need to know every detail of the journey to take the first step. You just need to know what to do next. Breaking the problem down provides that clarity. It tells your brain, here's where we start. Here's what comes after. Keep going. And that sense of direction gives you power. Most people overestimate what they need to do in one giant move and underestimate what small, consistent actions can achieve. They think they need huge progress instantly. They think they need to solve everything today. But in reality, major breakthroughs happen because of small steps taken repeatedly. Every solution grows from little actions. One decision, one improvement, one adjustment at a time. When you accept that, the pressure lifts. You stop feeling like you have to fix everything immediately, and you start focusing on what you can control in this moment. Breaking problems down also helps you identify what's actually important. Sometimes the real issue is hidden under layers of confusion, fear, or assumptions. When you divide the problem into parts, you can see what truly matters and what doesn't. You can identify which tasks move you forward and which tasks you've been worrying about unnecessarily. This saves time, energy, and emotional strain. It lets you target the core of the issue instead of getting lost in the noise. Another benefit of breaking problems into steps is that each small win builds momentum. Every time you complete a step, your confidence grows. You see progress. You feel progress, and that feeling fuels you to keep going. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. Once you start moving forward, even slowly, your mind becomes more determined. You begin to think, if I can handle this step, I can handle this step, I can handle the next one too. That belief is what pushes you through challenges that once felt impossible. Small steps also give you feedback. They show you what works and what doesn't. When the problem feels massive, it's hard to know where to start. But when you break it down, you can test different approaches. If one step doesn't work, you adjust the plan, you modify your approach. You learn something valuable without risking everything. This flexibility makes the process less intimidating and more strategic. You're not just guessing, you're learning actively with every step forward. Another reason breaking problems down is powerful is because it prevents burnout. Trying to tackle everything at once is mentally exhausting. It drains your motivation quickly. But focusing on one step at a time keeps your mind focused and calm. It allows you to work steadily without overwhelming yourself. It also prevents procrastination. Large problems trigger avoidance, but small steps feel doable. When something feels doable, you're more likely to take action consistently. Breaking problems into steps teaches patience and discipline. It reminds you that meaningful progress rarely happens instantly. Success is built, not found. Growth is gradual, not immediate. When you accept that the process takes time, you stop rushing and start working with intention. You become more methodical, more thoughtful, and more resilient. You understand that each step, no matter how small, is a necessary part of the solution. Sometimes the biggest reason people don't break their problems down is pride. They feel like taking small steps means they're not strong enough. They think they should be able to solve everything in one big move. But that mindset is what keeps them stuck. Staying calm is one of the most powerful skills you can develop because clarity comes from a peaceful mind, not a stressed one. When a problem hits, most people react instantly with panic, frustration, or fear. Their heart starts racing, their thoughts get jumbled, and their emotions take over. In that state, it becomes almost impossible to see the situation clearly. The more intense the emotion, the harder it is to think logically. Panic doesn't solve problems. Anger doesn't create solutions. Stress doesn't bring direction. Only a calm mind can analyze, understand, and respond effectively. A peaceful mind doesn't mean you ignore the problem. It means you refuse to let the problem control you. When you stay calm, you gain the ability to step back and see the situation for what it truly is. You don't exaggerate it. You don't minimize it. You don't let your imagination distort. Instead, you look at it with clarity. And clarity is what helps you find the right steps to move forward. Clarity is the foundation of effective problem solving, and calmness is the foundation of clarity. Many people think staying calm is weakness, like it means you don't care or you're not taking things seriously. In reality, calm people are the most dangerous in a powerful way because they don't allow chaos to dictate their actions. They respond with intention, not emotion. They take control of their thoughts instead of letting fear lead them. Calmness is not a lack of pressure. It's the ability to handle pressure with control and strength. Calm people aren't weak. They're stable, centered, and effective. When you stay calm, your brain functions differently. Science shows that stress down higher level thinking and activates fight or flight mode. That means when you're stressed or panicked, your brain becomes less capable of solving the very problem you're worried about. But when you're calm, you activate the part of your brain that makes rational decisions, recognizes patterns, and creates solutions. In other words, calmness literally increases your intelligence in difficult moments. It keeps your mind open instead of locked into fear. Think about the people you admire. Leaders, mentors, problem solvers. They don't fall apart when challenges arise. They pause, they breathe, they observe, they assess, then they act. Their calmness is what allows them to guide others, to make smart decisions, and to see opportunities within challenges. They know that emotional reactions can make things worse, but calm responses can make things better. They've trained themselves to remain steady even when everything around them feels unstable. Calmness also gives you control over your energy. When you panic, your energy scatters. You feel drained, overwhelmed, and mentally exhausted. But when you stay calm, your energy remains focused. You use your strength efficiently. You conserve your mental resources for what actually matters. Finding a solution, taking action, adapting where needed. Stress burns energy fast. Calmness channels energy wisely. Another reason calmness is powerful is because it helps you avoid impulsive decisions. When you react emotionally, you often make choices you regret. You might rush into a solution that doesn't work, say something you don't mean, or take an action that complicates the situation even more. But a calm mind gives you space to think things through. It allows you to analyze the options, weigh the consequences, and choose the step that will truly help you move forward. Calm decisions are wiser decisions. Staying calm also protects your mental and emotional health. When you constantly operate in panic mode, your body remains in a state of stress that damages your well-being over time. Calmness brings balance. It allows you to breathe, think, and act in a way that supports long-term growth rather than short-term survival. It creates a sense of inner stability that doesn't crumble when life becomes difficult. Calmness is not just a tool for solving problems. It's a tool for living a healthier, more centered life. Calmness is a skill. You develop it by pausing before responding. You develop it by observing your emotions instead of letting them take over. You develop it by breathing deeply when stress rises. You develop it by reminding yourself that panic has never fixed anything, but clarity has fixed plenty. Over time, the more you practice staying calm, the easier it becomes. And the easier it becomes, the more powerful you feel in difficult situations. People often think that staying calm means staying passive, but the truth is the opposite. Calmness makes action more effective. When your mind is peaceful, your decisions are sharper. Your strategies are smarter. Your judgment is clear. Surrounding yourself with solution-minded people is one of the most powerful decisions you can make for your growth, your discipline, and your future. The people you stay close to either sharpen you or weaken you. They either help you rise or keep you stuck exactly where you are. When you choose to stay close to individuals who think positively, who focus on progress, who refuse to drown in excuses, you naturally become stronger, clearer, and more focused. Energy is contagious, mindsets are contagious, and the environment you stay in will always shape the way you think, act, and respond to life. You can have big dreams, but if you surround yourself with people who constantly talk about problems, complaints, and limitations, their mindset will quietly start to influence you. Without realizing it, you start thinking smaller, doubting yourself more, and accepting negativity as normal. But the moment you surround yourself with people who look at challenges like opportunities, who see solutions where others see obstacles, your entire perspective shifts. You rise to the level of your surroundings. And solution-minded people push you to grow instead of letting you stay comfortable. They challenge you to think differently, to see angles you didn't see before, and to take actions you might have avoided on your own. They won't let you sit and complain for too long. They'll push you toward action, clarity, and strategy. They ask you the questions that force you to elevate your thinking. What can you do now? Or what's the next move? Or what's the lesson? They don't allow you to make excuses because they don't live by excuses themselves. When you're frustrated, they don't feed the negativity. They direct you toward the solution. They help you remember your goals, your strength, your potential. Being around them makes you feel capable, energized, and motivated to try again, even when life feels heavy or unfair. When you stay connected to solution-minded people, you begin to adopt their habits. You learn how they handle pressure, how they think through problems, how they stay calm when everything seems chaotic. You see their discipline, their resilience, their ability to bounce back, qualities that start rubbing off on you. Over time, you find yourself reacting differently to challenges. Instead of panicking, you start analyzing. Instead of complaining, you start planning. Instead of giving up, you start adapting. This shift doesn't happen because you suddenly became a different person. It happens because your environment changed your lens, your energy and your expectation. Solution-minded people also help you stay accountable. They won't celebrate your excuses. They'll hold you to your standards. They'll remind you of the commitments you made to yourself. They'll push you to finish what you started. This kind of accountability is rare, but it's powerful. When you surround yourself with people who expect greatness from you, you naturally rise to meet those expectations. You start showing up with more focus, more effort, and more consistency. You begin to think like a winner because you're surrounded by people who operate with a winner's mindset. Another benefit of surrounding yourself with solution-minded individuals is the creativity and collaboration they bring. When you discuss a challenge with them, they don't shut the conversation down with negativity. Instead, they open it up with ideas, strategies, and possibilities. They help you see 10 different ways to approach the same issue. They offer experiences, perspectives, and tools that you may not have had on your own. They expand your thinking, increase your resourcefulness. Suddenly, problems don't seem as big anymore because you're not facing them alone. You're backed by minds that want to help you win. Most importantly, solution-minded people create an atmosphere where growth feels normal and progress feels expected. They celebrate improvement, not perfection. They value learning, not ego. They build environments where everyone pushes each other forward, where success is shared and where setbacks are treated as stepping stones instead of roadblocks. Being in this type of environment builds confidence, clarity, and courage. You start believing in yourself at a higher level because you're surrounded by people who believe in progress. Focusing on what you can control, not what you can't, is one of the most important principles for building a strong mind, a disciplined lifestyle, and a solution-driven mentality. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy worrying about things that are completely outside their influence. What others think, what others do, circumstances they can't change, events they didn't choose, and outcomes they can't predict. This constant focus on the uncontrollable leaves them stressed, frustrated, and overwhelmed. But the moment you redirect your attention to the things that are actually within your control, your attitude, your decisions, your habits, your effort, your responses, you gain power, clarity, and emotional stability. You begin to move through life with intention instead of fear, strategy instead of panic, and focus instead of chaos. When you concentrate on what you can control, problems don't disappear, but they become manageable. You no longer feel like a victim of life. You become an active participant in your own progress. You start to understand that stressing about the uncontrollable changes nothing, but taking action on what you can control changes everything. You realize that you can't control the weather, but you can control how you prepare. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control how you respond. You can't control every challenge, but you can control your effort, your attitude, and your next step. This shift transforms your mindset, gives you the mental freedom to move forward, even in difficult situations. Focusing on what you can control also helps you stay grounded and emotionally balanced. When you give your energy to the wrong things, your mind becomes scattered, reactive, and exhausted. You start feeling powerless because you're trying to fix things you never had power over. But when your focus is on the controllables, your mind becomes centered. Your emotions calm down. You start thinking clearly. You make better decisions because you're operating from a place of strength, not panic. You stop fighting battles that don't belong to you and start winning the ones that do. This mindset also boosts your confidence. When you concentrate on the areas where you can make real changes, your discipline, your consistency, your preparation, you start seeing progress. These small wins build momentum. They remind you that you're capable, effective, and strong. And as your confidence grows, so does your ability to handle challenges. You stop feeling helpless in the face of difficulties because you've trained your mind to look for the part you can affect. You become someone who doesn't freeze when life gets tough, but someone who adapts, adjusts, and keeps moving forward. Another powerful aspect of focusing on the controllables is that it protects your time and energy. You stop wasting emotional energy on comparing yourself to others, trying to control outcomes or worrying about things that might never happen. Instead, you redirect that energy into developing your skills. Here is keynote 10, expanded into around 800 words, without heading and without a conclusion. Exactly as you asked. Seeing problems as opportunity to grow stronger and smarter is one of the most transformative mindsets you can develop, because it completely changes the way you approach life. Most people encounter challenges and immediately view them as obstacles, as setbacks, as reasons to complain or feel defeated. They see difficulty as a punishment, as a signal that life is unfair, as proof that they are not capable. But the truth is that every problem carries within it the seed of growth. Every challenge is a chance to develop strength, resilience, creativity, and wisdom that you could never gain from comfort or ease. Problems, when approached correctly, are the building blocks of character, skill, and achievement. When you start seeing problems as opportunity, you stop being a passive victim of circumstance. and begin to become an active participant in your own development. Every time a problem arises, you are faced with a choice. You can allow it to defeat you, or you can allow it to teach you. Growth is rarely comfortable. It is forged in the heat of difficulty. The pain, struggle, and obstacles push you to discover reserves of strength you didn't know you had. They force you to think differently, act differently, and adapt in ways that expand your capacity. Without challenges, there is little pressure to stretch, and without stretching, there is little progress. The problem itself becomes a classroom, and you are both the student and the teacher. The most successful people in the world don't see problems as the end of the story. They see them as a call to action. Every obstacle becomes an invitation to innovate, to work harder, to train, to strategize, and to refine their abilities. Problems force you to analyze, plan, and execute. They make you dig deep and discover strategies and solutions that you might never have considered if everything had been easy. Challenges cultivate mental toughness, patience, and determination, qualities that are essential for long-term success. What seems like a setback in the moment is often a setup for growth in the future. Seeing problems as opportunities also helps you develop emotional intelligence. Life will always throw unexpected situations at you, and your ability to respond effectively depends on your mindset. When you view problems as chances to grow, you remain calm and focused even under pressure. You stop panicking. You stop complaining. You start asking questions like, can I learn from this? Or what skills do I need to handle this situation? This mindset encourages reflection and self-awareness. You start recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, your patterns of behavior, and the areas where you need to improve. Each problem becomes a mirror, showing you the areas in your life that need attention and growth. Adopting this mindset also increases your creativity. Problems often require solutions that are not obvious. When you view a problem as a growth opportunity, you start thinking outside the box. You begin to explore new approaches, new strategies, and new ways of handling challenges. You become resourceful, inventive, and proactive. The more problems you face, the more experience you gain in finding solutions. This experience compounds over time, making you stronger, smarter, and better prepared for the next challenge. Your problem-solving skills improve, and with them, your confidence grows. You start to see difficulties not as threats, but as training grounds for mastery. When you embrace challenges as opportunities, you also develop resilience. Life will knock you down repeatedly, but resilience allows you to get back up stronger every time. You learn that failure is not final, that mistakes are not permanent, and that difficulty is not permanent. Each problem survived adds another layer of strength and determination. You begin to realize that setbacks are temporary and that your response determines the ultimate outcome. This resilience becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. The more challenges you overcome, the more confident you become in your ability to handle anything life throws at you. Another aspect of seeing problems as opportunity is the development of discipline. Growth requires consistent effort, planning, and execution. Challenges demand that you stay committed, stay focused, and keep pushing forward even when it's uncomfortable. Problems teach you patience, persistence, and the importance of delayed gratification. They show you that success is rarely immediate, but achievable if you are willing to put in the work. The discipline you develop in overcoming challenges transfers to every other area of life, from personal goals to professional success to relationships. When you see problems as opportunity, your perspective on life shifts fundamentally. Instead of dreading difficulties, you begin to welcome them as chances to improve, to learn, and to evolve. You start seeing every obstacle as a teacher, every setback as a lesson, and every struggle as a way to grow stronger, smarter, and more capable. Life becomes a journey of growth, and every problem becomes a stepping stone toward the best version of yourself. Your challenges are no longer burdens. They are gifts disguised as obstacles, pushing you to rise above and reach new heights. Ultimately, this mindset transforms your life because it turns adversity into advantage. You stop fearing problems and start using them to build strength. You stop avoiding challenges and start seeking the lessons within them. You become someone who grows in every situation, who learns from every struggle, and who emerges stronger, wiser, and more prepared than before. Problems are inevitable, but seeing them as opportunities to grow makes the difference between a life defined by struggle and a life defined by mastery. If you want, I can also compile all 10 expanded keynotes into a single complete motivational speech in Eric Thomas style for you ready to use. Do you want me to do that?